Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Chaos Child. In the last episode, Takuru basically saw no other alternative but to, well, deal with the possibility that each of the four victims in the current iteration of New Generation Madness have psychic powers or, powers along those lines. I know it sounds like we're clutching at straws, but it's literally the only hypothesis that fits the current evidence, and the only way we can either prove it or refute it is if we find further evidence that pretty much allows us to do so. Yeah, unfortunately that means that in order to do so, Takuru must see this case through to its end, much to the protests of Nono Kurisu. But, yeah, I've already walked this path before. Now we have to reach its end. Sadly, in order to do that, that means returning to AH Tokyo General Hospital and trying to retrieve Takuru's phone, which is in the hand of the mysterious girl here at the hospital, who also seems to have special powers because she gave a very threatening warning to him. Maybe inadvertently revealing that she might be the person involved in this entire crisis. But even that is pure conjecture at this point, I have to be honest. But as Shinji has just said, we have managed to infiltrate the front lobby of the hospital thanks to Takuru's schematics and his observation of their timetable. It's a very good chance that, given what happened last time, this is the easy part. It's only going to get harder from here. Ito was right. Getting into the hospital had proved easier than planned. Then again, if it was that girl who used her freaky powers to open the automatic door, we might be walking straight into a trap. But then again, Takuru has no choice if he wants to get his phone back. So, into the Dragon's Maw we go. Oh well. It was bound to happen sooner or later. A big part of it was that I'd memorized the way in, but the biggest advantage we had was that the rear staff entrance was unlocked for some reason. Yeah, we're expected. Totally expected. If that had been locked, we would have had to go through the ER entrance. Like before. That would mean we'd probably be caught by the staff. But just as I was starting to worry, Serika turned the doorknob and told me that it was unlocked. Like the automatic door and the door to the Love Hotel. Yeah, how very convenient. Yeah, we're definitely walking into danger on this one. But then, that's pretty much par for the course. I suddenly remembered what happened when I first snuck into the psych ward and almost stopped for a second to think. But then I drove the idea from my mind. I needed to focus on getting the phone right now. And we do. It was nighttime at the hospital, and this wasn't a ward where patients were kept. The lobby was pitch dark. Sometimes I could hear a strange, unpleasant sound, like two pieces of metal touching. We dropped down low and tried to move quietly. Someone could spot us at any moment. It was the middle of autumn, and I could still feel cold sweat running down my back.
問題はスマホがどこにあるかだよね。
The bigger question is, are we prepared to get to that place?
だな。
That girl was definitely the one who picked it up. And she was also the one that sent us the unsettling message. Which meant that finding her would be the fastest way, but I had no way of knowing where she was. Oh, we'll meet her eventually, Takuru. In fact, I'm pretty sure she's counting on it. Definitely counting on it there.
だからって病院の中を全部探して回るわけにもいかないしな。
That's true, but we don't need to.
あの日どこであの子と会ったんだっけ？
I retraced our steps on that day. First we'd hidden in the bathroom, and then, yeah, don't need to recap that again.
精神科の病棟へ入った。
And found the room. That's where we seen the sumo stickers drawn on the walls in blood.
ってことはまずはそこに行かなきゃいけないってことか？
We actually ran into the girl downstairs via the emergency stairwell.
いや、何もそこまでする必要は。
Yeah, we don't need to visit that room again. And yeah, we definitely don't need to visit that room again unless we have no other choice. I didn't want to go back there.
病棟から逃げるときに非常階段を使った。階段をずっと降りていって、そこでスマホを落としてあの子に拾われた。
となるとその非常階段に向かえばいいってことか。どっちだ？
それが逃げるのに夢中だったからはっきりとした場所かな。
In regards to Shinji's earlier comment, our only drawback is if the girl and the old woman are wandering around the hospital, in which case we'll definitely have to search this place from top to bottom if that's the case. I haven't been able to remember where I've been scouting the place out this afternoon either.
多分あっちかも。
Serika started to move forward, looking around as she walked.
覚えてるのか？
なんとなくだけど。
Can't really rely on hunches at this stage. But it's what we have. Serika walked forward, hesitantly. We followed.
ここか？
違うかな。
She isn't going to be conveniently loitering on the stairs.
いや、そうだったかもしれない。
There was a steel door to the emergency stairs in front of us. Unfortunately, it is only openable from inside. Or maybe not. I turned the knob and softly pushed it. It was a little heavy, but it opened without catching on anything. This one wasn't locked either, evidently. I believe the phrase is being led up the garden path. The emergency stairs stretched up and down, illuminated by the cold fluorescent lights. As I stared at them, I realized I remembered coming down these stairs.
どうだ？
多分ここだ。すごいな、小野江は。
いひひ褒められちゃった。
And you did. Unfortunately, still need to get the phone back. Serika grinned.
よし、行こう。
ああ、
Back up we go. We carefully walked down the dimly lit staircase. I started to get more and more nervous, down into the depths of the basement. Even if I'd done my homework before I come here, wasn't this even easier than last time? Too late to be saying that now. Yeah, maybe it is a trap. Maybe something terrible is waiting up ahead to swallow us. I tried to shake my head and drive the thoughts out of my mind.
あの子、今夜もまたどこかを歩いてるのかな。
I would be incredibly inconvenient if she was.
どうだろう。
But then again, considering the fact that she can wander all about Shibuya, she can go anywhere she likes. What was she doing with an old woman in a dark hallway at that hour anyway? Where did she come from and where did she go? Also, if I did run into her again, what should I do? Ideally, I got my phone back without causing too much of a fuss, but I couldn't imagine things would be that easy. Yeah, considering what she was capable of, for now I'd thought of an escape route, but it still might be dangerous.
ね、タク、ほら、あれ。
Serika's noticed something. We reached the end of the staircase. There was a cold steel door in front of us, another one. There were no further stairs to go down. Past this door should be the hallway where I dropped my phone.
もうここまで来たんだ。
And now comes the part where we have to walk through the door. I told myself that there was no time for second thoughts, and nodded at Serika and Ito. Then I put my hand on the cold doorknob. Fortunately, it wasn't locked either, lo and behold. I looked down the hallway as I listened to the loud creaking of the hinges. We still haven't run into any staff members either. Yet.
誰もいないね。
Definitely no one here but us.
ああ、
No one but us Misas. Serika and Ito both looked a little relieved. There was no one in the hallway at all. No hospital staff, no guards, no doctors or anyone. We slipped past the open doorway and proceeded down the hallway, being careful not to make any noise. Maybe it was my imagination, but the air seemed more stale in here than it did upstairs. Identical doors stretched out on either side, and there was no way to know what was in each room. The letters on the plates were too small to read in the dim light unless you squinted. I got close to one to try and read it when...
おい、誰が来る？
Oh, of course, how very convenient. And there isn't much place to hide down here either. Not in these corridors. Serika and I jumped at Ito's words. Well, we could hide in the emergency stairwell again. Of course, if they happen to go inside there, we're pretty much doomed. Of course, things could get worse. Much worse. I listened carefully. And sure enough, from behind I heard... very slow footsteps. I don't think that's the hospital staff. Not just one pair, definitely not the hospital staff. They were slow, as if only taking one step at a time, as if they were on a leisurely stroll instead of a patrol. I knew those footsteps. It's definitely them. Those footsteps were...
あいつらだ。
and they're definitely expecting us.
とにかく一度隠れようよ。
Unfortunately, hiding won't get her phone back. We'll need to confront her since she will certainly have it on her person. Of course, there is the very real possibility that she might have ditched the phone, which would be even more of an inconvenience, but it's very unlikely that that is the case.
隠れるってどこへ？
Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, it seems. The door to the emergency exit was the same way the footsteps were coming from. Wait, what? They're coming down. There was no time to get back there now. Okay. Yeah.
ここ開いてる。
Yeah, it's a trap. We got played. I slid inside the door directly next to us. Just before I did, though, I saw the horrible words written on the plate next to the door.
何ここ？ロッカールーム？
I think it is a locker room, but not for luggage. The walls were covered in steel cabinets. Steel cabinets in a hospital? Not a good sign. They were just big enough for someone to lie down in. Funny you should say that, Takuru. This place was...
あ、そうだ。もしかしたらこの中に隠れられるかもしれないよ。
We're in a morgue, Serika. Hiding in these steel cabinets is not the best idea. Especially if there are cadavers inside, which is the most likely, given that this is a hospital, probably the case. Serika put her hands on one of the cabinet doors.
ちょ、おい！
Words on the plate had read, Autopsy room. Of course. Of course. God damn it. Oh god. Which meant that what was inside was, I think I know whose body we're probably gonna stumble upon in this place.
ダメだ、尾上、それは。
They're not cubby holes. Definitely not cubby holes. I closed my eyes, imagining what I was about to see inside.
どうしたの？タク。
I opened my eyes when she spoke and saw that there was no one, no, nothing inside. Russian roulette with a morgue, and luckily for us, Serika got lucky.
なんか変なロッカーだね。
Yeah, that's because it's not a locker.
尾上、これロッカーじゃなくて。
I whispered to her, and she went pale. Ito must have figured it out too, because so did he.
とにかく、この中に隠れるなんてごめんな。どこか別の場所を探そう。
Yeah. The empty ones might be clean and sterile, but we'll be trapped if that were the case.
ああ。
The footsteps were still approaching from down the hallway. For some reason, it felt like they were coming towards this room.
嘘だろ。なんで解剖室なんかに。
That's because they know where we are. They know we're here. We're just delaying the inevitable. This wasn't a place that anyone would ordinarily choose to visit. Ito was panicking too.
宮代どうするこっちに来るぞ
Yeah, hiding from them is pointless. I listened carefully again. There was no doubt. The footsteps were definitely coming this way. But I didn't see any place in the room we could hide. Except one.
くそ
Looks like we have no choice, even though it is pretty much the most obvious place in this whole room where people could hide.
やっぱりここに
It's not gonna do us any good, but we're gonna do it anyway, it seems. Serika was shaking a little, but she put her hand on one of the cabinet doors.
バカそこはダメだって隠れるなら他に
他ってどこだ
Yeah, we're trapped. But then... Yeah. I looked around and didn't see any other place in the room where three of us could hide.
早くしないと来ちゃうよ
There's no way they're gonna fall for this. I didn't have a choice, I had to do it. If the lamp on the cabinet was green, did that mean it was empty? Or did it mean the opposite? I think green is supposed to be good. I felt all the hairs on my neck stand on end, but still I managed to pull open a door. Thankfully there was nothing inside. That's two. Two down. Serika was normally a ditz, but at times like this she was really courageous. Her whole body was shaking, but she managed to jump in first.
タクもう一人入れるよ
Oh god, I'm surprised they're that large, but problem. There are three of us.
私一人じゃ怖いよお願いだよ
Need to do something. She grabbed my hand from inside. She was right. Since Serika was so small, there was room for another person in here. We're gonna have to choose.
糸
Takuru?
悪いがここに3人は無理だお前は隣へ
Oh god. Well, looks like we're throwing Shinji under the bus, ladies and gentlemen. I know.
尾上を一人にしとくわけいかない
俺だってこんなところに一人は嫌だ
And then the footsteps outside stopped. Just as I expected, they stopped right outside this door. If they know we're in here, then they know that we're hiding in these cabinets, which means this has all been for nothing. I felt a terror like someone was pointing a cold knife at my back.
待っていてください今ドアを開けますから
Yeah, this is the epitome of ungood. I heard a voice outside.
もうダメだとにかく入れ糸
いや待てやめ
I ignored Ito and yanked open the door next to mine. And then I pushed them in head first.
いいから早く
I don't think the third one was so lucky. Ito held his hands over his mouth to deftly stifle a scream. Apologies, Ito, but we didn't really have any choice. As soon as he was all the way inside, I shut the door. Looks like you drew the short straw. It'd be really bad if it was closed all the way, so I left him a little gap. And then I crouched inside and slid next to Serika.
よし閉めるぞ
I brought the door close, leaving just enough of a gap that it couldn't be seen from the outside. Well, we're concealed. Whether or not we're actually hidden is probably a bit of a tall order, I'm afraid. The inside of the cabinet was hard and cold. It made sense, since no one who was in here would ever complain. Obviously. Since I was pushed up against Serika, the parts of my body that were touching hers felt strangely warm. But we didn't have time to enjoy each other's warmth. I looked outside, holding my breath to make as little noise as possible. Just a moment later, they came inside. There were 5 or 6 of them. Wait, what? I was sure it would be all old people, but some of them were middle-aged or young men. If it were just old people, I was planning on stealing it by force if I had to, but that was impossible now. But what were they doing in a place like this? And then I started to wonder again. The sudden horrible fantasy made my whole body shiver. Were they already dead? And this is where they slept? That was impossible. This wasn't a horror movie or something, right? I tried to tell myself I was being silly, but I could tell I was shaking. Serika was probably no different. She was clinging to me like a little child. It's probably a good thing that we don't apparently have claustrophobia, although we might develop it under the circumstances.
怖いよ怖い
I think we're all scared in this situation. And then I remembered. This was a lot like what had happened before, when the two of us had seen that terrifying sight as children. That ominous flashback. And that person again. At some point I'd started holding her back.
大丈夫だ僕がいる絶対に大丈夫だ
Will it though, Takuru? Will it? Don't want to dampen your optimism here. Well, at least Serika's happy. I squinted into the darkness. I could see several shadows moving about. The strange men, and one of them was clearly different than the others. But who? That small girl.
やっぱりあいつだ
Yes, indeed. The one who has your phone. She slowly walked across the room, straight towards where we were hiding. Did she find us? My heart started to pound faster, but it seemed like that wasn't the case. The men followed her across my field of vision and stopped in a corner in front of an empty wall.
何をしてるんだ
I think we're about to find out. She opened what looked like a small breaker box on the wall. You know, those things with the yellow warning sign and black or red text that reads, "Danger, high voltage." And then she took something out of her pocket and slid it inside the box. There was a loud noise on the other side of the wall.
は
The girl shut the door to the breaker box, then put her hand on the wall and slid it to the side. The wall opened easily, as if it was weightless. Was this hospital built by the Umbrella Corporation, or something to that effect? Because this is very Biohazard, aka Resident Evil. It must have been some kind of sliding door, also known as a hidden passage, as H.C. Bailey would say. Or a secret passage. Hidden, secret, it's a passage. She led them in inside and vanished. The wall closed, and the dissection room was quiet again. Well, we definitely lucked out on that
隠し
one.
扉だったのか
There is more to this hospital than meets the eye.
びっくりしたね。
はあもう大丈夫だ
Yeah, we're still here. Although we probably should check on Shinji. I waited for a while to make sure she wasn't coming back, then finally opened the cabinet door. Serika and I crawled out.
はあ
Takuru, I know you're feeling relieved at the situation, but actually you are forgetting something. Or someone, I should say. I took a deep breath of air into my lungs.
なんかここって秘密基地みたい。
Or a secret laboratory.
そうだな
Why would they build a huge mechanism like this? Well, considering who was in charge of running this hospital 6 years ago, I really shouldn't have put it past them. What was going on at this hospital? And what was on the other side of that wall? Probably an answer to the many mysteries we still have about this
おい
case.
伊藤もう出てきても平気だぞ
I knocked softly on the door of Ito's cabinet. Yeah.
しんちゃん
Ito leapt out of the cabinet. His face was pale and his hand was over his mouth.
し静かにしてくれ
He crouched down to the ground, trying his best not to scream. It was only then I realized that the cabinet I'd stuffed Ito in was already occupied. I could see that the lamp above the door was red. I hadn't had time to check, but still, that was a horrible thing to do to someone.
Shin-chan, 大丈夫?
The answer to that question, Serika, is no. He is not okay.
すまない。非常事態だったんだ。
非常事態じゃなかったら今頃ただじゃ済ましてねえぞてめえ。
ほんと悪い。
もういい。それより行こうぜ。ほら。
I think this is a friendship panda there, Takuru. Ito staggered to his feet. But then he collapsed to the floor. Yeah, he's not handling this well at all. I waited for him to calm down, then opened the door to the breaker box, like the girl had done.
隠し扉だって？
Indeed, with the secret panel.
ああ。
I looked deep inside the box. It was an RFID scanner like the ones they used at train turnstiles inside. I think the girl had an ID card in her pocket. Since we don't have an ID card.
これじゃカードがないと開かない。
No, we cannot. That wasn't good. What should we do now? I hadn't anticipated this. But then Serika, who'd been fiddling around with different parts of the wall, let out a small cry.
なんだ？
これ、ちゃんと閉まってないよ。
That's odd.
何？
Serika pointed to her feet. The wall was set to slide upon rails on the floor, but some kind of cloth had gotten stuck and jammed on them. So the door wasn't shut all the way. Peculiar. And also ominous.
伊藤、手を貸せ。
Once again, convenience.
OK。よっ。
It's probably going to be very hard to open, but it is openable, I think. The two of us yanked the door to the side. We heard a loud clunk, like something was unlocking. Then the wall started to slide open. One of the men had dropped a handkerchief or something onto the rails. When Serika pulled it off, the door began to move more freely.
お。
Well, the way is open. All that was left was to slide the door open. And beyond it was...
また階段だぜ。
stairs leading further down. I could see stairs going down. Yeah, I'm just repeating everything now. There was a sub-basement below the hospital basement. The place was protected by very elaborate camouflage.
なんかやばい雰囲気だな。
It is, but in order to uncover the mysteries and also get Takuru's phone back, We're going to have to go down there.
どうするタク。
ここまで来たんだ。僕は行くよ。
Yeah, we can't leave now. We're not going to get another chance. To be honest, I was terrified at what I might find down there. But this was something I had to do, no matter what. For just a moment I thought of Kurusu and her words.
タクル、お願いだからこれ以上はやめて。もうやめて。
We had to disregard her advice.
尾上、伊藤、お前たちはここで待ってても。
冗談じゃねえよ。
Yeah, I don't think Shinji wants to stay in the morgue any longer. Ito looked at the cabinets on the wall and moaned a little.
私も行く。いざとなったらタクを守らなきゃ。
Well, it looks like we're the Three Musketeers, all for one and one for all. At least I
逆
think
だ
I'm
ろ。
referencing
さっ
that
き怖い
right.
って震えてたのは誰だよ。
I think the answer is all
そ
three
ん
of
なこと
us.
してないもん。
Oh, us. It's excluding me. But still. Well, that appears to have calmed everyone down. For a moment. We all looked at each other and nodded a little, then began to descend the staircase. As we went down, it got darker, and the air got heavier and more humid.
大丈夫か、尾上。
Always a good sign.
うん。
And after we'd gone down for a few minutes, we ran into a door. We'd probably gone down about a floor. I turned the knob and it opened easily. Maybe it hadn't been locked to begin with.
ここは。
It was a dimly lit, musty-smelling hallway. It was clear that the place hadn't been abandoned, and there wasn't a layer of dust everywhere. It's been well maintained, and it's still being used. It even felt like it had been cleaned. But it felt so old. There was a sense of desolation, as if no one had wanted to use this place for anything for a very long time. Had it been like this since the hospital above us was built? Possibly. And this air, I knew it. And that sense of dread. The sides of my head started to hurt as the horrible memories came back. Yes, indeed.
ねえ、タク、ここって。
Indeed, Serika. We've been here before. Serika seemed to remember too. That's right. This was the place. I didn't know how we'd done it. But when we were kids, the two of us had snuck in here, into the basement of AH Tokyo General Hospital. We were trying to investigate an urban legend about Amy. A person who has some kind of vendetta against Takuru Miyashiro. And then Serika and I Well, we found her. If that is indeed Amy. We'd seen it. I tried to avoid thinking about it as much as I possibly could, but I'd failed. The memory would come back to me, then fade, then come back again. As I'd grown up, I'd even tried to convince myself that I'd never seen anything at all. But I'd failed at that too. It was unreal, like something out of a nightmare, but something in my heart told me that it was real. And it was real after all. But will we find that room again? Yes, it was real. I was sure of it. And she was crying out for help. Help that would never arrive. Not then, at least. Unfortunately, the only way we can go from here on out is forward, not back. Not if we want to confront the mysteries at their source once and for all. So that is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play Chaos Child. And when we return, well, we know what our next destination is going to be. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.